Hi, everybody. Welcome to this weekly update. We actually are here with a very special guest, I guess you could say. This is one of our orthopedic doctors for Ogden Clinic. This is Dr. Michael Hall. And I say this is a very special update because Dr. Hall is actually reporting to us live from New York City. And Dr. Hall, we're really happy to have you on the call today.
Thanks for having me out, Parker. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for everything that you're doing. We've been really concerned and just are happy to hear from you and see your face. Could you go in and kind of just break down to our audience how you got to New York?
Yeah, well, it's that would be a long story, but in the short version of it, honestly, I was actually down in St. George on about 2 weeks ago visiting family. I have two sons that live down there and my parents. And I went down on a Thursday, and Friday night, about midnight, I got a phone call. Woke me up, and I've been a part of the Navy Reserve now for about 6 months, is all. But I got a phone call from the Navy and said, we'd, would like to have you deploy on Sunday. So
Wow.
I had about 36 hours to get my stuff together and fly out of Salt Lake. I flew out of Salt Lake into Pennsylvania, stayed at Fort Dix, and then we were bused here to New York City. And
Wow.
that happened I flew out on Sunday and I was bused here on Monday. That would be, I think, around the 6th of April.
Okay, so you've been there for a couple weeks. And what are you doing while you're there? Obviously, you're taking care of people, but tell maybe if you could talk about what your role is in the hospitals, your location, etc., kind of what you're doing. Could you go into that a little bit?
I can go into some things, Parker. There's some things I can't talk about entirely, as it's a military operation, but and patient care issues. But yeah, I can talk to you about some things. Basically, the military is here. The presence is in a couple of different ways. As most people know, the USS Comfort was deployed here. It's offshore. It was initially designed to see patients who didn't have COVID-19 to kind of offload some of the pressure from the hospitals. It since has become part of the mission to take care of COVID patients. There's a big conference center for people in Utah who are familiar with the Salt Palace. There's a conference center here called the Javits Center. It's bigger than the Salt Palace. That was
Wow.
that was converted into a hospital space, the military staff. And it's not just the Navy. We have the Army and the Air Force all are here. Um, Army is kind of running the logistics, and a lot of the Navy and Air Force are the docs and nurses taking care of people. But um, the Javits Center became a place for hospitals to offload their COVID-19 patients who were stable enough to be transferred there to some degree. Um, and then the last part of it, of the attempt to help people here in New York and to combat this disease, is some of us were selected to go out into the local hospitals and kind of as be the first wave to go out into the hospital and relieve the pressure there on the local caregivers and to try and treat the large, very large number of patients that they have here.
Awesome. Thanks for breaking that down. It's really interesting to hear, and it's crazy just how quickly in motion it was that you got there, and how you guys are taking care of people. It's kind of insane, but awesome that they're being so effective in their ways of relieving those doctors, like you said, and taking care of the people in need. So could you kind of just go for it?
Well, I was going to say, and as far as that goes, I have great partners who have kind of jumped in and helped me out a lot. I mean, I literally found out about Sunday and or on Friday, and then was here. I have patients that had to be seen and cared for, and my partners jumped in and, you know, kind of made that happen. So we have a great group of doctors at Ogden Clinic who are willing to help and are in the right spirit and the right frame of mind to allow me to be here. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that, your patients are knowing that they're in good hands too, that you didn't just leave them or go on vacation or something, but you're actually doing something really significant and that they're still being taken care of. That's great to know. Well, I wanted to ask you, Dr. Hall, what does your daily routine look like? Are you able to go into that a little bit?
yeah, so at this point, I'm taking care primarily of COVID-19 patients. I know I'm an orthopedic surgeon, but at the bottom of it, I'm also a physician, and the Navy doesn't really need a lot of orthopedic surgeons right now here in this battle, but they need physicians, and so I'm here. I cover, for most people that know the New York area, they may know I'm stationed I'm tasked with Woodhull Hospital, which is in Brooklyn. Um, we actually are staying on the island of Manhattan. I'm not too far from the Empire State Building, actually. Um,
Wow.
but they bus us into Brooklyn every day to take care of patients. At this point, I'm doing shift work, so I work 12-hour shifts, which it turns out to be longer than that because you have to get bussed there and bussed back. But we usually have to get up about 5:30 in the morning, catch the bus by 6:15, and then we usually get back sometime around 8:30 at night. So it's kind of a long day, but today is my day off. I get a couple of days off to be able to talk to you
Well, I feel honored
get my
that
laundry done and things like that.
well, I'm glad. I hope this is not the highlight of your day, but it is good to talk to you, and I'm glad that we're
Not a
able
lot
to.
going on in New York City right now, Parker. That's
That's
for
true. I was told that you're not a big Yankees fan, and I guess that's a good thing.
I'm actually more of a Dodgers fan, which ironically came from Brooklyn originally, so that's kind of cool. But you know, it's you got to respect the Yankees. The Yankees are they've won a lot of championships, so you may not root for them, but you definitely have to respect them.
That's very true. Well, thanks again for meeting with us on your day off. Just a couple more questions for you. One that I was interested in knowing is what's been the most surprising thing that you've seen while you've been working on the front lines?
You know, it, it's hard to see from Utah uh, what this disease is, and being here, it just seeing what it's doing to a lot of people is probably the biggest surprise. Um, back in Utah, we don't have this to the extent here. Here, it quite literally has changed their way of life. I know back in Utah, we think it has, but we still get out and we walk around, and there's still golf courses open, and there's still some activities, anyways. But here, I mean, anybody that's been to New York City knows how busy the place is and how much is going on. Parker, I can walk down the middle of the street for a block, and there's no cars, and just I guess the surprise is to me was, this is a serious disease. This is not something that we should take lightly. It's not something that we should be so fearful of that we can't handle it or something like that. We can handle it, but we have to be smart. We have to be intelligent in the way that we go about our lives. We have to be aware of the things that we do, and there are changes that we probably ought to make in our everyday. I mean, simple things like washing our hands, trying to that's one of the biggest things in prevention and the spread of the disease. It's just simple things: washing your hands and coughing into a sleeve, and to Um, I don't think we're going to be a society where we walk around wearing masks all the time, but it certainly is an eye-opening moment to be here, to see the severity of it, to see the extent of it. And, we need to be smart about the way we do things.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think it's very hard because I feel like, Utah and New York are two very different places in geography and population. And so I'm sure it's almost like two different worlds, two different extremes. And I think, sometimes we don't realize the severity, like you mentioned. Even just, we hear on the media, and I know that it is severe and probably more severe than what we even see. So thank you for helping divulge that a little bit. I wanted to kind of move on a little bit. I know it's probably pretty taxing. You talked about your long days, and I'm sure it can be discouraging sometimes working on the front lines. But what are some things that give you hope as a provider of care for these people?
I mean, we're a country that's figured a lot of things out over our history, and we're an adaptable people. And sitting here in one of the places, probably the place, at least in the United States, but one of the places in the whole world that's hit the hardest. The people's spirit is down, but they are fighters, and they want to move on. They want to continue. They want to change to a point where they succeed. And I think that's the thing that is the most encouraging is, the idea that this is something that we can get through. And in an area where I watch people every day that have been the most affected by it, they are getting through it. And we do, like I say, we need to be smart, and we need to do some things a little different, at least for sure in the temporary, but maybe even in the permanent. Um, and the things that give me hope are the fact, obviously the statistics, everybody follows those things as we watch them on the TV and things like that. And there's models that are graph models and things, and all those things are very encouraging. But again, moving forward, we need to be better about the way we try and prevent things like that.
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be something that changes our natural ways and tendencies for good, for sure. So thank you for answering that. And maybe this is a little bit of repetitive, redundant question, but what personally keeps you going?
Well, I've got a family at home, and I get to talk to my wife, almost every day. I've got things back home that I look forward to. There's a practice that my partners are keeping going. There's friends. There's all kinds of things. One of the I mean, I don't get to respond as much as I would like to, because a lot of times I can't take my phone with me into the unit, the ICUs that I'm in, just because I don't want to get contaminated. But
Right.
every time I go to my phone, I get like there's 20 or 30 texts on there, all from people from home, either from the hospital or friends. Dr. Jordan just sent, while we were talking, there was a little thing that popped up on my screen. Dr. Jordan just sent me a video of him wearing my X-ray lead at the hospital right now. So just little things like that are precious. When there's certainly acts of kindness, and that's what keeps you going.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Well, we talked about how we know New York City is in a very a serious situation and difficult position with COVID-19, especially when compared to Utah. But what advice would you give to Utahns to inspire and encourage us to stay at home and avoid a similar situation?
Well, like you said, Parker, Utah and New York City are very different. Um, you know, not that there's anything wrong with either one, but they're vastly different. New York City is a city of 10 million people plus right here, and probably I don't know how many different cultures and different races and things. It's a city where people are, living on top of each other. There's, high rises and apartment buildings with thousands of people living in them. And, it only takes one sneeze on an elevator to contaminate the elevator, right? People here, a lot of people don't even have cars. They travel by taxi and by buses and by subway. It only takes one person to sneeze and contaminate. So, we are different in Utah. We all have cars, and we all live in individual homes, and there's usually not two or three generations living in a small home. So because of that difference, like I say, I don't think we're going to have nearly what they have here. This is sort of a perfect storm here for this kind of a thing. But I don't know if that answered your original question or not, but it is something that what we can learn, though, are from those kinds of things. Again, when we need to take personal responsibility for taking care of people, other people. If you have a cold, don't go to work. And I'm probably one of the biggest culprits. I mean, I'm trained. I don't miss work, right? It doesn't matter. I have patients. I got to take care of people, things like that. When you're sick, probably shouldn't go to work.
Right.
When you got to sneeze, you got to cough, use a tissue, cover up. We just need to be, again, smarter about the way we do things. And that's the way these kind of things are spread. And as we do that and we wash our hands, I think we're gonna be better for it. Whether it's the flu, whether it's this COVID-19 or something in the future. But these kinds of things is what's going to prevent problems in the future.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for taking some time on your day off to meet with us. I really appreciate, you taking the time to set it up, and also just for our listeners and viewers that have tuned in, Dr. Hall also sent us some behind the scenes, I guess you could say, of him putting on his personal protective equipment, which is pretty awesome. So we'll share those as well. But we just really want to thank you, Dr. Hall, and all of the people working on the front lines that are helping take care of people and just really helping nip this thing in the bud so that we can move forward and get on to our better but return to normalized lives, hopefully. We really just want to say thank you from Ogden Clinic, and I know the community has all just been rallying around those frontlines workers that are really just working hard to get this resolved. So thank you so much.
No, you bet. You're welcome.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add before we finish up today?
I'll just, can hardly wait to get home, but I'm glad I'm here. This is why I joined the Navy, is to be able to help people and to be able to, do good things, pay it forward a little bit to the country that makes it all possible for us to have what we have and the freedoms that we have. So I'm here because I want to be here and I want to help. I do want to come home and enjoy the beauties of Utah again soon, but when the mission's done.
Perfect. Well, we can't wait for you to come back as well, and we hope that it's sooner rather than later. So thank you so much, Dr. Hall.
You're welcome.